Honestly, Renée, don't come. You'll just make it awkward. Nobody wants you there. I stood frozen, phone pressed to my ear, the crumpled baby shower invitation in my other hand. An invitation I only received because a cousin accidentally forwarded the group chat. That was the last time my sister ever told me what to do. Because 3 weeks later, a doctor called my phone, and everything changed. My name is Renée. I'm 34 years old. I'm a registered nurse working night shifts at a county hospital in Ohio. Single, no kids. I chose nursing because I genuinely wanted to help people. But my family always treated my career like a consolation prize. Something I settled for because I couldn't do better. My older sister, Danielle, she's 37. She was always the favorite, the prized one. She married well, got the big house, lived the picture-perfect life. Our mother, Lorraine, orbited Danielle like she was the sun. Everything revolved around her. And me, I was the afterthought. Every holiday, every milestone, every family gathering, Danielle was celebrated while I was tolerated. I wasn't the successful one. I wasn't the pretty one. I was the one they called when they needed something and forgot the moment they didn't. I wasn't rich or glamorous. I drove a 10-year-old Honda and ate hospital cafeteria food most nights. But I had something they didn't expect. I had the one thing money can't buy. I actually knew how to show up for people. Really show up. Not for the photos, not for the praise, but because it was the right thing to do. That part of me never changed. No matter how many times they made me feel like I was nothing. If you've ever been the one your family calls when they need help, but never invites when they celebrate, subscribe. You already know this feeling. Drop a comment and tell me I'm not the only one. Click hype and let's get into this. Let's go. Danielle was pregnant with her first child, and the entire family was buzzing with excitement. You would have thought royalty was expecting. Every phone call, every group text, every Sunday dinner revolved around Danielle's pregnancy. I was happy for her. I truly was. A baby is a blessing, no matter what. But I found out about the baby shower the way you find out about a party you were never meant to know about. A cousin named Tasha accidentally forwarded me a screenshot from the planning group chat. There it was. Dates, themes, registry links, a guest list with every woman in our family on it. Every woman except me. My stomach dropped. I read through the messages twice, thinking maybe I'd miss my name somewhere. I hadn't. So I called Danielle. I kept my voice calm. I asked her about the shower, mentioned I'd heard about it and wanted to know the details. She went cold immediately. It's an intimate gathering, Renée. I don't want any weird energy. You always look tired and sad, and I don't want that around me right now. I swallowed hard. She's my niece too, Danielle. She snapped back fast. Look, Mom agrees. We just think it's better if you sit this one out. I hung up and called our mother, hoping that maybe, just this once, Lorraine would be the parent I needed her to be. Her response was worse. Honey, your sister is stressed. Don't make this about you. You can meet the baby later. Just let Danielle have her day. Let Danielle have her day. As if every single day hadn't already been Danielle's. I went on social media later that week, and that's when the full picture hit me. Every female relative had been invited. Aunts, cousins, second cousins, even Danielle's coworkers. Women I'd never met were going to celebrate my niece's arrival while I sat alone in my apartment. I was the only family member excluded. The shower happened on a Saturday. By that evening, photos flooded Instagram. Pink balloons, matching outfits, a cake shaped like a baby carriage. And then Lorraine posted a caption that stopped my heart. Surrounded by all the women who matter most. I read it at 3 in the morning during my hospital shift. Standing under the harsh fluorescent lights of the break room, the smell of stale coffee and antiseptic clinging to everything. Then a text from my cousin Tasha came through. Girl, your mom literally said she only has one daughter who made her proud. I'm sorry. I thought you should know. I stared at those words. I read them again, and something strange happened. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I didn't beg for an explanation. I screenshotted the text, put my phone back in my locker, and finished my shift. I checked vitals, changed IVs, comforted a patient who couldn't sleep. I did my job, but something inside me shifted permanently that night. Something quiet and final, like a door closing in a room no one else could see. I stopped reaching out entirely. No calls, no texts, no begging for a seat at their table. If they wanted me gone, then gone is what they'd get. 2 weeks after the shower, my phone rang. It was Lorraine. For a split second, my heart jumped. Maybe she was calling to apologize. Maybe she'd realized what she'd said, what she'd done, and she wanted to make it right. But no, she wasn't calling to say sorry. She was calling to ask for money. Renée, Danielle needs help covering the nursery furniture. It's about $2,000. You don't have kids, so you have extra money, right? I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my scrubs from a 12-hour shift, and I let the silence sit for a moment before I answered. I can't do that right now, Mom. Her voice turned sharp immediately. This is why people don't include you, Renée. You're selfish. Selfish. The woman who told me not to come to my own sister's baby shower was calling me selfish for not writing a check. I didn't argue. I just said goodnight and hung up. A few weeks later, I attended a rare family dinner. It was a cousin's birthday, and I'd been invited separately, so I went. I shouldn't have. Danielle was there, visibly pregnant now, glowing, surrounded by attention. Halfway through dinner, she looked across the table at me and said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Renée, you should really think about freezing your eggs or something. You're not getting younger, and at least I'm giving Mom a grandchild. The table laughed. Some people looked away uncomfortably, but most of them laughed. And Lorraine? She didn't defend me. She didn't flinch. She smiled. She actually smiled. I kept my composure. I finished what was on my plate, excused myself early, and walked to my car alone. The parking lot was dark and quiet, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel under my shoes and the distant hum of traffic. I sat behind the wheel, gripped it with both hands, and whispered to myself, I'm done performing for people who see me as nothing. Then came the deepest cut. I found out through Tasha that Danielle had listed Lorraine as her medical proxy and emergency contact, which was fine, that was her choice. But she'd also told the family, if anything happens during the delivery, don't bother calling Renée. She'll just make it clinical. Clinical. They'd taken my profession, the thing I'd built my entire life around, the thing that helped me save lives every single night, and turned it into an insult. They weaponized my career against me. That one hurt in a place I didn't even know could still feel pain. But I didn't collapse. I threw myself into my work. I picked up extra certifications in postpartum and neonatal care. I started volunteering at a free clinic on weekends, helping mothers who had nowhere else to go. My colleagues saw me. They respected me. My charge nurse, a woman named Gloria, who'd been in nursing for over 30 years, pulled me aside one evening. Renée, you're one of the best I've ever worked with. Don't let anyone dim that. I held on to those words like a lifeline. Slowly, I started building a life outside my family's shadow. It was small, but it was meaningful. New friendships with people who actually asked how I was doing. A sense of purpose that didn't depend on Lorraine's approval. But I won't pretend the hurt didn't linger. It lived beneath everything, quiet and heavy, like a bruise that never fully healed. What my family didn't know, what none of them had any idea about, was that the daughter they called boring and sad had been building something for the past 3 years. Something real, something powerful. I'd started writing a medical caregiving blog under a pen name. It began as a personal outlet, a place where I could process the frustration of being dismissed by my own family while spending my nights caring for strangers. I wrote about family dynamics and caregiving, about emotional abuse disguised as tradition, about how to advocate for yourself in medical settings when no one else will. And people responded. Not dozens, not hundreds, hundreds of thousands. The blog grew to over 400,000 followers. My articles were featured in nursing journals. A healthcare media company reached out with an offer that made me sit down when I read it. A book deal, a paid speaking contract, a chance to turn my pain into something that could help other people who felt invisible in their own families. I kept it all anonymous because I knew my family. If they found out, they would twist it. They'd claim credit, or they'd try to tear it down. But the platform was mine. It was my safety net, my voice, and soon it would become my leverage. They thought I had nothing. No husband, no kids, no status. But I had a voice that reached further than their dinner table ever could. And I was about to use it. There was one person who knew everything. Dr. Vivian Cole, the chief of nursing at my hospital. Dr. Cole had watched my growth for years. She'd seen me take on the hardest cases without complaint, stay late without being asked, and treat every patient like they were the only person in the world. I'd confided in her about the blog one evening after a particularly brutal shift, and she'd become my fiercest champion. Behind the scenes, she'd been recommending me for leadership roles, connecting me with the healthcare media company, and pushing my name into rooms I didn't even know existed. One afternoon, she sat me down in her office. The room smelled like lavender. She always kept a small diffuser by the window. She looked at me over her glasses and said, "You've spent your whole life being underestimated. That ends when you decide it ends, not when they give you permission." Meanwhile, my family grew more arrogant. Danielle posted constantly about her perfect support system, her village of strong women. Lorraine started a Facebook group called Danielle's Village to coordinate help for the baby's arrival. It was a public display of community, and it pointedly excluded me. Every post was another reminder. Every comment was another door closed in my face. Danielle's due date approached, and the family treated the birth like a royal event. I watched from a distance, uninvited, but no longer surprised. Then the book deal became official. The publisher wanted to use my real name. They wanted a feature story, a profile piece, a photo shoot. Going public meant my family would find out everything. I hesitated. I sat with it for days, turning it over in my mind during long night shifts. Staring at the ceiling of my apartment during the mornings, I couldn't sleep. Dr. Cole called me one evening and said simply, "Let them see what they threw away." I agreed to go public, but I decided to wait for the right moment. And here's the part that still makes me shake my head. The caregiving blog, my blog, had been shared on my family's own social media pages. Lorraine herself had reposted one of my articles about supporting new mothers, calling it beautiful and so true. Danielle had shared another one about postpartum mental health. They'd praised the words of the very daughter they'd excluded. They just didn't know it yet. 3 weeks after the baby shower, Danielle went into labor. It should have been routine, but it wasn't. There were serious complications during delivery. Severe postpartum hemorrhaging. Her blood pressure crashed. The hospital she was at was a smaller facility, overwhelmed and understaffed that night, and the attending nurse recommended an immediate transfer to a specialist team. That specialist team was at my hospital. I was on rotation when the call came in. The doctor who contacted me didn't know the patient was my sister. He called me because I was the most qualified postpartum care nurse on duty. "We have a patient being transferred," he said. "High-risk postpartum. Her family listed no reliable medical contact with professional experience, but your name came up in our system as next of kin. Can you consult?" I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. Despite everything they'd said, everything they'd done, every door they'd slammed in my face, I showed up. Because that's who I am. That's who I've always been. I coordinated Danielle's care with precision and compassion. I worked alongside the medical team, monitoring her vitals, adjusting her treatment plan, staying calm when things got terrifying. I stayed through a 14-hour shift to stabilize her. 14 hours on my feet, running on coffee and adrenaline and something deeper than anger. When Danielle finally woke up, groggy and pale and scared, she looked around the room until her eyes found me standing by the monitors. Her face crumbled. "They told me you wouldn't come," she whispered. I looked at her steadily. "I'm not here because you invited me. I'm here because it's who I am." That same week, the healthcare media feature went live. My real name, my photo, my story. The article highlighted the blog, the book deal, the hundreds of thousands of people I'd helped through my writing. And it included a powerful excerpt about being excluded from my own sister's baby shower while quietly being the medical professional the family would eventually need. The article went viral. It spread through nursing communities, family wellness forums, social media pages dedicated to caregiving and self-worth. It spread everywhere. The family saw it. Lorraine called me within hours, her voice shaking with fury and embarrassment. "How could you air our dirty laundry?" I was calm. I was steady. "I didn't air anything, Mom. I told my truth. Something you never let me do at your table." Danielle, still recovering in her hospital bed, read the article on her phone. She called me that evening, and she was crying so hard she could barely speak. "You saved my life, and I didn't even think you'd show up." "I'm so sorry, Renée. I'm so sorry." Lorraine tried damage control. She posted on Facebook about family unity and the strength of sisterhood, but the comments section told a different story. People who had read the article flooded in, calling out the hypocrisy, sharing their own experiences, asking pointed questions that Lorraine couldn't answer. The Danielle's Village group was quietly deleted within 48 hours. I didn't gloat. I didn't post a single response. But I did call Lorraine one last time. And I said what I'd been carrying for years. You said you only had one daughter who made you proud. Now the whole world knows what that other daughter was doing while you looked away. I didn't cut my family off completely. That was never who I wanted to be. But I set boundaries made of iron. And I made sure they understood those boundaries were permanent. I told Lorraine and Danielle together, I'll be in this baby's life, but I won't beg for a seat anymore. You come to me with respect, or you don't come at all. The book was published 6 months later. It became a bestseller in the caregiving and self-help space. I was invited to speak at nursing conferences nationwide, standing on stages in front of hundreds of people who understood what it meant to care for others while feeling uncared for yourself. Danielle slowly rebuilt the relationship, but on my terms. At a family gathering months later, she stood up in front of everyone and said, "My sister saved my life, and I almost lost her because I was too proud to see her." The room was silent. Lorraine never fully apologized, but her silence spoke volumes in its own way. She attended my book signing alone, stood in the back of the room with her arms folded, and left without saying a word. I noticed her, but I didn't chase her. I was done chasing. I spent 34 years waiting for my family to see me. Turns out, I didn't need their eyes. I just needed my own. If your family ever made you feel invisible, excluded from celebrations, left out of the group chat, treated like you didn't matter, I see you. Subscribe to this channel and share your story in the comments. Tell me about the moment you stopped begging for a seat and built your own table. I'm reading every single one. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else who's been made to feel invisible by the people who should have loved them loudest. Thank you for being here and for listening. I'll see you in the next one.